Good evening, everyone. This is Pastor Anthony here with your Daily Excellence. Thank you guys so much for being on here this evening. And for those of you who don't know, here in just a few moments, we are going to have Stephen Ben-Nun with Israeli News Live that's going to be joining us tonight as we have a conversation with Stephen tonight. And we're going to be asking him some questions about things that are going on. But first, I do have to say, I do apologize because we are extremely late tonight, and that is partially my fault because I lost track of time and didn't get here good enough. John Paul, thank you so much. I was just getting ready to do a volume check, and you know the drill, man. You've already got me there, so perfect. I don't even have to worry about volume this evening. So I can hear Steven. I can hear his mic. He's here, so let's switch on over. And let me bring it to a big screen, possibly. There we go. And let's make sure we're not getting any feedback.
All right. How's it? All right. How does it sound?
It sounds good on my end. If everybody,
go ahead.
I
have to tell you, Brother Anthony, thanks to StreamYard, it gives me a virtual background that makes me look like I'm a rich guy living in a fancy house with a fancy piano.
When I was trying to get the stream key pulled up, I looked over there. I'm like, dude, what's Steven doing? How you living, man?
Yeah, that's right. And that's actually on the stream thing. It was funny. It said, do you want to use a virtual background? And so I chose it, but the funny thing is, my wife is a concert pianist, so it's funny to see that they actually have all that. But I live in a trailer, and I'm like, I wish I lived in a house like that. That'd be nice, but right. It does look pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah, it is nice. Awesome. So everybody says that they can hear us real good. So that's pretty awesome. So everyone, we're doing pretty good. Perfect. So, all right. So, Stephen, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And thanks for once again. It seems like every time we come on, we just have to fly by the seat of our pants. It just seems to be our thing. So,
yes. Never prepared.
Never prepared, but yet we have the answers, right? So,
well, we have good information regardless, and I do have a lot of very interesting information. So any direction you want to go in will be safe to go in.
Perfect.
So I'm ready.
All right. So let me get my pen real quick, just so I can jot down. So as you're talking, questions will start entering my mind. If I don't write them down, I'll never ask them. So let me do that real quick. And so I think let's just go ahead and just start with some of the things that have been making the news here lately. One of the things that has popped up over the last week or two, and I guess we'll just go ahead and open up, is I think you're pretty well aware of what happened in Las Vegas with that family that had the visitor that showed up in the backyard, and law enforcement that witnessed this. And of course, there was body cam footage that did show the entity or entities that were back there. And it was confirmed, but then scrubbed later on. And then, of course, we had a lot of federal agents and things like that do not, how should I say this, hypothetically, are not allowing the public to have any information to it. But yet the family hasn't changed its story. Law enforcement said, man, this happened pretty much. Are we beginning to see the beginning of an actual real soft disclosure concerning that?
It's going to be a little bit more than soft disclosure. And I have to be honest, in the very beginning, I thought it was fake personally. Just personally, I thought it was fake. And I originally thought it was fake because when I heard the young man doing the 911 call, I'm thinking to myself, well, if he really has a 9-foot alien in his backyard, I don't think I could be so calm about it. Mm-hmm. But then I heard Mike come out with Paul and talk mm-hmm. about it. And so I'm like, all right, I need to find out for myself if this is really so. So I reached out to the people that I know. And I said, look, is this fake or is this really real? And I was told it's real. Not only was I told it's real, but I was told things that have never been made known to the public. At least as far as I know, they have not been made known to the public. And I'll share that. And then you can probably tell me, Brother Anthony, if this has been spoken about or not. But initially, the police officers did not want to respond. They then called SWAT to respond. SWAT did not want to respond. And then I was told that the National Guard was involved. With all that going on, they said finally the officers did respond to the scene, but they were very fearful about actually going in. The one thing, though, that I was told that was brought up in this whole ordeal was whether or not let me back up just a little bit on this here. Uma, you recall the rock that went past the Earth what, a year ago or something like that, Brother Anthony?
Yeah.
Okay, Uma is a spaceship. It is. There was some suspicion that it could be because when it was leaving our area, they noticed that it picked up speed and took off. There was a lot of things that were suspicious, but they never told the public what Uma really is. It is a spaceship. It is inhabited with alien life or fallen angels, whichever preference people prefer to use in that. And it's coming back. So it's not like the case of a normal orbit of a rock. It's already on its way back, and we know it. They are fully anticipating that we are going to have more visitors from that particular space rock when it returns. And so the question was asked by one of the people I know on that space team there was whether or not this craft that came in, which it did not crash, it actually did land, and it is interdimensional. So it's one reason why then nobody could ever find anything. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize, Brother Anthony, is that these interdimensional vehicles, they can move in and out of our dimension. And it's kind of like when we say dimension, you have to understand that what we call the ether is all around you. It is what binds one dimension or separates one dimension from another. So we can see that coming in, and then this thing land, and the next thing you know, you're not going to see anything. I don't quite understand how that works. I know it does. Whether or not because we're playing with CERN so much, if that has anything to do with it or not, perhaps. I do know that they're going to use CERN to pull in Planet X, and that's something that has been confirmed. In fact, Paul Bagley, because I'd asked Paul, I said, ask Mike when you have him on one day, is Planet X traveling in the ether? And he did ask him the question. For a little bit, he didn't answer it. But then he comes back around and Mike actually brings this up. I know it's a big circle I'm going into, Brother Anthony, but there's a reason for all this madness. Later in the program, Mike comes back and he actually says, he said, you actually mentioned earlier about, is Planet X traveling in the ether? And he said, yes, that was the question. He said, well, let me answer it like this. Now, I may be incorrect as far as in the exact wording he says this, but something along this line. Mike answers it like this. He said, in the ether, there is more energy in a cubic, where there was a cubic meter or whether he said a mile, kilometer, whatever the case may have been, more energy in the ether than there is, or than what we can produce on Earth in a year with electricity. He said, we are using CERN to try to tap into that. When he made that statement, I thought to myself, nobody is going to understand what he just said. Because Paul asked him, was Planet X traveling in the ether? And now he answers it in such a way to where you would think that's not an answer. You didn't say anything about whether or not it's traveling there or not. Well, Mike in my opinion, Mike speaks about what he's permitted to speak about and discloses things more openly if he's got the permission to do so. I run into similar situations. Like recently, I was given video footage of a werewolf that we were doing an autopsy on, but I'm not allowed to show it. But I've seen it, and it's the weirdest thing you'll ever see in your life, right? So sometimes we get certain things, and you might get permission to use it, or you might not. Well, in the case of this ether issue, I felt like Mike must have not have been given permission to really go into that, but I knew what he was saying when he said it, because we're using CERN to allow this to come into our dimension. But at the same time, as it's traveling, it's kind of like a parallel. All right. It's going like this here. These fallen angels know when it's going to be close enough to bring it in.
Right.
It's kind of like the spaceship thing and stuff like that. That's why I'm using this as an analogy here. And as it's traveling along parallel to our universe, once it's close enough, they will use CERN to open the portal so that this thing can fully come in. And so this is what we're dealing with. So when he talks about we're trying to use CERN to extract the energy because of that, so much energy inside of the ether, he's telling you how they're going to bring it in. He's saying it without saying it, hoping that maybe somebody can read between the lines and understand what he's talking about. Now, that's my opinion. I could be wrong. I mean, Mike would have to correct that himself, but I think that's exactly what he's saying, because I know that that's the way it'll be actually brought in. Now, if you go back to Atlantis, for example, Plato put Atlantis 9,000 BC. But we have Egyptologists, Russian Egyptologists, and I think an Egyptologist from South America that have now re-looked at what Plato has said and then taken into consideration the artifacts that we have. And I say Egyptologists because Egypt had the map of Atlantis. They had a lot of information about Atlantis. They have it flipped upside down in their map because the earth was the other way around, and that's why. But they were able to determine that Atlantis was sunk around 1550 BC. That's during the time of the Exodus, which is also believed to be another time of the passing of Planet X. Mm-hmm. And from what I was told, we know, and this is never made known publicly, but if you could get into the secret archives of the Smithsonian, we have the documentation that Atlantis was sunk because the alien or fallen angels had given them the technology very much like that of CERN, and they wanted them to open up a portal to allow other fallen angels in, and that's what brought the Planet X in the last time around. So each time they know when the thing is coming through. If you ever look at the Colburn document, I don't call it a Bible, Brother Anthony, because it's not a Bible, but if you look at it as a historical document, even that talks about this planet coming from the vaults, so to speak, of heaven. And if you translate the word vaults is something has to be opened. So in the case of what happened in Nevada, and in the case of what we have with Planet X, it's all this basically the same. Mm-hmm. They see it, but they don't see it.
Right.
You know, the alien was there, but now he's not there. And we see that quite frequently. Same thing with submersibles, things like that. They're there, then they're not there, etc. So anyway, I took too much time to go into all that, but I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Go ahead, brother.
And just kind of let the viewers know, when we use the word alien, we're not really referring to Little Green Men on Mars or the X-Files show. We're referring to fallen angels, or known as demons. Okay, that's exactly what we're referring to. Also, when we look at this technology, and I think Mike has actually talked about this, but when we look at this technology, it's very possible that this is kind of the beginnings of where Revelation tells us that during that tribulational period, we're going to see that an angel is going to come down and unlock the abyss, so to speak, and we're going to see all these entities or all these things from hell are going to come out upon the earth. And so Is CERN, the question was raised, is that what CERN is doing? Are we beginning to see the precursor to these things? You know, when we begin to have this alien disclosure, which is now starting to come out, my personal opinion, Stephen, is that this is the precursor because we always see the beginnings of what's to come. God's always done that. Just to let everybody know, hey, this is actually coming. Here's a few hints. Here's a few signs here. You know, maybe God's letting man's technology do this, but Revelation does say that an angel will come with a key. So and unlock that. Will it be used through CERN? And you know, it's a you know, a heavenly thing that just gives CERN that last inch that it needs to unlock all of that. I don't know, but when I see what's happening there, when I see the alien disclosure, when I hear you talk, it lines up with what we're going to be seeing in this tribulational period in the book of Revelation. That's kind of my opinion on that. I just wanted to kind of tie that together so everybody can be together in an area of understanding. Is that kind of your thought as well on this?
That's
In a nutshell?
exactly right, Brother Anthony. It is. You know, and I have to often reiterate that when I'm doing my own program so that people understand you're dealing with fallen angels. Like when we read over in Genesis about they were teaching, well, actually, no, I think you go into the book of Enoch when it goes into the specific things that they're teaching and stuff. But nonetheless, we see that, you know, when we first look at it, it always seems like, well, they just give them better farming equipment. But in reality, the technology was much greater, or at least what we don't get to see is the greater technology that they were given, and that's the way Satan has always done. He has to use technology, and because of the fact that CERN, and when I say CERN, the Hadron Collider, we have about 6 of those on this earth, and they don't tell you about that, and they're all up and operational. And the reason why they're doing the disclosures as well is because you can't hide it. And not only does it open us up to what we call aliens or fallen angels, we also are dealing with spirits as well. You know, you have basically when you have an alien is a fallen angel that has a body, a physical body that they live in. And it doesn't matter which one they're called, whether they call them reptilians, Venetians, any of the above. One thing that they all have in common, they have the worst odor you could ever imagine if you're around them. I think that speaks a lot to, as the Bible calls them, you know, we had Nephilim, but we also had Rephadim. Rephadim literally means the dead ones. Mm-hmm. And that I often think about that when I think about the people that I know that have seen them firsthand that describe this foul odor that they have, is that because they're dead. It's like a decaying body and they can't seem to get rid of that. But then we also have spirits, demonic spirits, and those demonic spirits, we know that, you know, from where Jesus cast out of Legion, although the maniac of Gadara, he cast out all those evil spirits that were in him. These are different types of entities, but they're able to, because they're spirit form, they don't have a body. They're always looking for a body to inhabit. Now, with the book of Revelation speaking about the abyss being opened, that angel, I believe the key is technology that they use. And of course, we not only are we seeing that this is happening, but the upscale of this taking place is so dramatic, and they know it is. So therefore, they're having to do disclosures because they're not going to be able to hide it. Even the demonic possessions of people that is happening. I mean, look at the craziness, Brother Anthony, that's taking place on the earth. Every type of sin you can imagine that is happening, whether it be shootings, whether it be, and and I'm going to be careful because I don't know what words would cause you an issue, and I don't want to say certain words, but we know that there's this one agenda going forth right now. We'll just say girls becoming guys and
Yeah.
vice versa. Um, you know, these, to me, this is all demonic possession that's happening to these people. Uh, and they don't get it. They don't realize that that's what's happening. And so we're living in a vulnerable time like never before. And this is why you have people that talk about intrusive thoughts, things like that. It's all these spirits, and they're just hammering the people nonstop.
Yes. Yeah. And that's exactly, like that's exactly what we're seeing right now. With everything going on, the uptick and the violence, even decisions that are being made, government wise in our nation and the nations around the world. Everything is really demonically influenced. And that's going to continue as we go forward. That's part of the disillusion. That's part of everything, um, coming unhinged, so to speak, as we move towards the ruleship of the Antichrist, really. And everything that we're seeing right now, from the disclosure to the moving of currency to the moving of governments and all these weird policies, honestly, really is it's the foundation for the Antichrist platform. Okay, this is where it's all going, and so this is the direction we're taking place. So. Good conversation there. We're going to move on to the next piece here. And I just want to ask your opinion on this. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it because I think a lot of channels have kind of kicked this horse a little too much. Canadian wildfires. Some people say that it's due to dry areas. Things are catching on fire. Could be magma. Could be people purposely doing it. They're still burning. I live here in Michigan. For about a month, we had smoke-filled skies. We didn't see anything blue for about a month. There were days where you could actually smell it as you're going outside. You can see the blue haze and the yellow sky. Then we had what happened in New York, and that's kind of where I'm going with this. And remind you, and I understand how the jet stream works, and I understand how smoke moves in and out. But before New York even got that, we had it for a month. And we were in the thick of it. And our skies, even though you couldn't see the blue sky, it didn't look nothing like what New York had. I don't know what that was. I do find it kind of interesting that they just happened to be the same day that they threw up that huge billboard of the devil introducing the new video game of the folklore demon that the Jewish people used to talk about, that would steal the seed of man to go and create new demonic entities. If you know what I'm referring to, this is what the video game is about. So a big poster went up on the side of a skyscraper in New York, and it says "Welcome to Hell" on the exact same day that there's fire smoke engulfing the city. You can't see the skyscrapers, you can't see the bridges, the city lights are coming on. And so I put a lot there. What's your thoughts?
Well, as they say, nothing happens by coincidence for sure. And I remember seeing a satellite video that someone had posted on the internet that showed the 20-something fire starting nearly simultaneously, I think about within an hour period of time.
I think it was Dutch Sense that did that, wasn't it?
Do what now?
Was that Dutch Sense that brought that out, that he showed something?
I think it was Dutch Sense that brought that out. And I thought that was very interesting in itself, because that seemed to indicate an intentional igniting of this type of fire. I think also it mentioned about the pattern laid out in the way the fire was started as well, which could indicate satellites starting the fire using laser technology. We do have that. The Chinese could have done that. In fact, the Chinese are more advanced than we are on laser technology. Not only could they start a fire from a satellite easily, which we could do the same, but also they can take and they could project a message in front of a soldier using laser technology from a satellite, and literally the message will appear before his eyes. He can read it, and then it disappears.
Mm-hmm.
We've not figured out how they do that yet, but we know that they have that technology, so they're a little bit more advanced than we are when it comes to that. So yeah, it's curious. I don't really know why, other than to create more havoc, but like you said, it could have been done intentionally because of the hanging of that billboard. So we'll just have to. Well, we won't know the answer to that as of right now, but it was kind of interesting that did happen simultaneously.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody that I work with, and they're not a Christian at all. But even they had said, that's so weird what happened in New York. It's almost as if they wanted to spray anything over the populace, that would have been the perfect cover to do it with. This is a person who has no idea what we discuss, or no idea about end times prophecy, just regular common person out there in the world. But even that person came out with that piece of discernment. I just thought it was really interesting. And I was like, you may not be too far from the truth on that one. That's just my personal opinion. Not saying that anyone actually did anything, but it's kind of one of those question marks that just lingers in the back of your mind, though.
Yes. Brother Anthony, I know that you may not realize this on your end there, but you're getting a lot of static on your mic. And I know if it were me, because I normally find that out after I do the program, and then I'm like, what the heck was going on? So I didn't know if it's something that might be a loose wire or something like that.
Let me see if I can fix it.
I used to get that with my lapel mics every so often. I'd have a wire that wasn't just right. To post it, you'll hear you didn't have it initially, but then all of a sudden it started.
All right. Is it better now?
Try again.
Is it better now?
Yes, you got rid of it. Whatever you did, just got rid of it.
Okay, perfect. All right. Everybody online says it's going good, so I don't know. But at least on your end, it's gone. Perfect.
It's gone.
It's gone. Good deal. All right. So we talked about the Canadian fires here. Let's go into the next conversation here. And, I don't know what your thoughts are. We're seeing a little bit of a geopolitical mix-up taking place right now with the U.S. government. Of course, Trump is facing federal charges, 30-something counts with over 400 years in prison coming up. Personally, I think that's a bit of a smokescreen for something bigger that they're doing behind the scenes. We're also now seeing that there's charges and impeachments coming up for Joe Biden on the Democrat side. His son is also going to be indicted here pretty soon as well. And so looking from an American political point of view, what is your thoughts on what could possibly be taking place here? Potential movements. I know Council Time, Mike had mentioned that eventually we're going to be ran by a council and not so much a president. What's your thought on that?
Well, he's right on that. And I have said that before. It's been several. Well, let me put it like this here. We're already ran by a council.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we think we're ran by a president. We're not. There are, and I've spoke about this. It's been a long time ago that I spoke about it, maybe 3-4 years ago. If I remember right, there's 6 men that run this nation. And at the time when I was first told this, the only one that they would disclose to me was George Soros was one of those. And this is because we have different levels of power in the world. We have a total of, I've been told we have 10 levels. No, I'm sorry, that's a different issue. 7 levels. And in the presidents and world leaders, whether it be Putin, prime ministers, et cetera, are level 3. The ones that actually run our country are what we call level 4 and 5. And that's George Soros, Henry Kissinger, people like that. George Soros was one of the 6 men that run this nation. It is a council and that's what they call it, is a council.
Mm-hmm.
But I was told that I would not even know the names of the other 5. So there was no need for me to know about those. I still would like to know who they are, though, out of curiosity. Beyond them, the next level up is the Rothschilds. They're at level 6. And then above them, At level 7 is what we call interdimensional beings. This is where, you know, the old saying is Satan's world. This is where these fallen angels that have hybridized entities that can go both ways, they are over them there. So yeah, there is a council, and eventually we will see that come to fruition. As far as Trump, the reason why they did all these charges on him is to try to prevent him from becoming president. And I do want to clarify something on that as well. The council is really the ones that control who become president. I actually got a message from the Israeli Mossad today about that very issue, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. But even though they control it, there is a real battle that takes place at a presidential level. Mm-hmm. So in the case of Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, all the mud that gets slung around there, same thing with Trump, their battles are real, even though whoever gets in is going to be controlled no matter what. I mean, I sat there when Trump's home was being raided by the FBI in Mar-a-Lago. I was sitting with one of the former advisors to the president, watching Donald Trump Jr. text the friend of mine and telling him step by step what was happening in Mar-a-Lago, and how that Elena was all upset, was angry with the American people because they're allowing such evils to happen to her husband, and that the FBI, what they're doing was so wrong. And, you know, whereas at one point I was thinking that, you know, if they're all handpicked and chosen, that this must all just be a bunch of show for us, but it's really not real. But then I found out, no, the fights are really real at that level. But at the end of the day, that council is who really decides who's going to get into that White House. And allegedly they're, you know, the Biden camp is trying to stop him. But that's a different subject altogether. And I don't know if they're putting all that heat on Trump, but he's going to end up getting there anyway and look like the savior of the world. Or is it going to be somebody else? Is it going to be maybe the real candidate they want in there is the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis. And so I don't know the answer to who's actually going to make it in this next time around.
Yeah, and I've heard a few rumblings, and one rumbling that I've heard is that the council that you're referring to, I've heard of that myself before, and the rumor, because we don't really know, but the rumor is that they are setting up for Trump to return back into office next year through all of these things that are taking place. That's the rumor. For sure that it's almost certainty. I wouldn't say 100% because I always like to leave room for error. But that Biden will not be returning one way or the other. So, and I remembered a while back there was a news conference that came out about Biden potentially running again, and it was suggested that he not run again. And it was suggested he not run again. And there was a discussion concerning that. And I remember thinking, I'm like, they don't want him to run again. And this is my own personal thought. This is not fact. You know, I have to say that for algorithm purposes on here. But I remember thinking to myself, they don't want him running. But if he runs again, and he does what they don't want him to do, we're going to start seeing things. And I did a video on this on Patreon a while back. And I told the people, I was like, if Biden does this, you're going to start seeing more than just documents coming out, okay? Because that's when the document thing started, is when he made that decision. I'm going to start toying with the idea of running. That's when the documents started being found in his Corvette and his home and all this other stuff. And then next thing we know, there's even more documents coming out. Well, now Hunter Biden is getting indicted. Well, now this scandal has just broke out with the millions of dollars for the entire family. Impeachment is coming, all of these things. And I remember thinking that if he does that, all this stuff is going to follow because they really don't want him doing it. That's just my personal thought on that. You know, I don't like to go too political on here, and I'm not really trying to waver on each side. But, you know, I think, I think going forward, if he continues to run, at some point they're going to stop him one way or the other without going into further detail with either law enforcement or other means possible with that. But I'm almost certain, not 100%, but almost certain that they do not want him in next go around. So.
Right. Brother Anthony, I'm going to have to step out just for a minute. I got an emergency phone call, but I'll be right back in just a few minutes. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So we'll see you here in just a second. Okay. All right, guys. So Stephen Ben-Nun is going to just step away just for a moment. And so we're just going to recap for some of you guys that are coming on here on the channel, just some of the things that we've talked about. We did discuss with Stephen about the possible alien disclosure and the things that are happening there. And he had talked about that, yes, what happened in Las Vegas was real, that there was something that was seen there. And this is more than just a little disclosure. We're beginning to start seeing the real impact of that disclosure. And so we got into that conversation. We talked about the wildfires in Canada and what's taking place there. And we also just talked about some of the political upheaval here in the U.S. So if you're just coming on, you missed that, hey, don't worry about it. It'll be in the archives. If for whatever reason this comes up missing here on YouTube, don't worry. We are live right now on Twitter. We're live right now on Rumble. You can catch it over there, and this will be up on Patreon later this evening. Yes, I am going to ask about China. That's actually my next line of questioning for Stephen when he does get back. I'm going to talk about China and about the United States withdrawing its support of the Taiwan people and handing over China. We talked about that here on this channel. When I did the video of the video called Taiwan Effect, I mentioned that. I've also mentioned it several times since then in a hypothetical scenario that the United States would not support Taiwan. We knew that was coming. Then we see blink twice Blinken come out yesterday and say that Taiwan basically has no right to be an individual area. It belongs to China. And I'm just paraphrasing what he said. So I'm going to talk to Stephen about that because I think he's got a little bit more information concerning what is happening over there. We're also going to get into what's going on with Russia as well and get an update of what's happening. So a couple more questions are coming up as soon as he gets back. So until then, let's do a shout out to see who's all online tonight. We have Cindy Lakes, 10,000 BC, that's joined us. Thank you for being a moderator tonight and getting those links up for us tonight. Thank you so much. We've got Ron Jin, Johnny Knight. We have Anissa Abrams that has joined, Tim James. We have T. Beverly Judica on this evening. Let's see what else we got here. We've got Everlyn Deer, Eddie Gilbert, Shiloh Woods, Ike Deal, Nick Nova, Mark Hall, Ron Ginn. So a lot of you guys coming in. Samuel Garcia, Shift T Prepper on here tonight as well. And so a lot of people coming on. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm going to take this opportunity real quick too. Tomorrow night is Pastor Talk night here on the channel. And my wife, who normally joins us on Pastor Talk on Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock, will not be here because she's out of town. But I do have a special guest that will be live in the studio with me tomorrow night. And his name is Charles Schott. He's been on the channel before. We went over some of the Jewish holidays with him. We talked about the Shabbat nights and all these things. And so he's going to be with us tomorrow night. And we're going to be talking about the giftings of the Holy Spirit, as that's been our theme the last few nights. And so make sure you join us tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, here on Daily Excellence and all of our backup channels, as we will have special guest Charles Schott with us tomorrow night. And we're going to get some of his views about the Holy Spirit. And we're going to get into some of the Jewish background to some of this, as well as he comes with us tomorrow night. So very interesting evening in store for us tomorrow evening. Make sure that you guys also join us this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for Mike from around the world. We'll have premieres that'll be going and chat room open, so everyone get a chance to come together and fellowship. All right. So I think Stephen is back. He's back. Okay.
But I got a few minutes before they get here. If we can, Brother Anthony, let's hit this issue with Ukraine, because there
Okay.
are some developing things that I wanted to bring up about that, if it's all right with you.
Go ahead. Let's jump straight into it.
All right. The situation we have going on, I don't know if anybody has saw the news on this as of yet, but both Sergei Shoigu, who is the defense minister of Russia, as well as Foreign Minister Lavrov, have both challenged NATO and flat out said that if you want to fight, we'll take it outside of Ukraine. Now, the reason why this is concerning to me is because we're already dealing with a situation, from what I was given on intel earlier in the year, is that back in January, we were already looking at the AI that the Pentagon uses, our Joint Chiefs of Staff, and we saw that we more than likely, between October and November, we could end up with this war spreading outside of Ukraine. Specifically, we figured that Germany would be hit first. But now that we're starting to see this type of talk coming out of Russia with the foreign minister and the defense minister, then we know that this is really becoming a very real possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I was just told too that it is believed that we're going to be in a massive nuclear war by the end of next year. I'm going to have to run, brother. God bless you.
God bless
Thank
you.
for having me.
All right. We'll be praying for you. Thank you for coming on. All right, so that's Stephen Ben-Nun. He had to take off. He has a emergency that he has to take care of with his family. So as you guys are in the chat room there, just be praying for him, and we'll get Stephen back on at a different time. We'll let everybody know, because I do want to discuss with him what's going on with China. We may just do a short video with him later on once we find out everything that's going on, and we'll just post it up here on YouTube. So, but we do appreciate Stephen taking his time to come on here and just have a conversation with us here on Daily Excellence. And so make sure, hey, you guys just pray for Stephen and the situation over there, and we'll reschedule another time for him to come back on, and we'll have a discussion about what's going on in China and things like that. So, hey, we got 536 of you here on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for being here this evening. As I already spoke, tomorrow night, be here, Pastor Talk. It's interactive with you guys. So the more of you guys that show up in the chat room, the more interaction we have with you guys as the audience. So special guest tomorrow night, Charles Schott, will be with us. Actually, make sure you check out our sponsor at EMPShield.com. Go to EMP Shield. Protect your home, protect your vehicle from electropulse magnetic. Stephen Ben-Nun was just talking about the potential for nuclear war that we may be going in with things spilling outside of Ukraine and Russia. Good opportunity to take an opportunity and see what EMP can do for you. Make sure you use promo code DAILY, get $50 off your order there. And of course, if you like to support our channel, we have PayPal, and we also are on Patreon as well, so you can choose whichever one you would like to do there and be a part of what we have there. So thank you guys so much. PJ is asking, how can we contact CoT? Safari won't bring up the site. But that's a good question. I don't know what's going on with that website. I've been getting that question a lot lately, especially over on Patreon. All I can tell you is if you go into your website browser and type in www.counciloftime.com. It will go through, but if you try to search it through our links, for some strange reason, they cut our links all the time. And if you try to go through Google, it don't work, but you have to actually hand type it in. It will go through. You can email Mike at mike@counciloftime.com, but I have no idea if he'll answer. He's a very busy person, so you might want to. As for that aspect of it, I really, really don't know. Okay. And so, but it never hurts to try. All right. And so, There's that aspect there for you guys. Other than that, everyone, have a great night. God bless you. Thank you guys so much for being here. And we will see you guys tomorrow night for Pastor Talk here on this channel at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. All right. Bye, everyone.